जय राधा माधवा कुंज विहारे जय राधा माधवा कुंज विहारे जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारे जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारे यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जना यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जना यमुनतीरावनचारि यमुनतीरावनचारि जय राधा माधवा कुंज विहारे जय राधा माधवा कुंज विहारे हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे जय कृष्ण रुक्मिणी जय सत्याभामा कृष्ण रुक्मिणी जय सत्याभामा जय निताय गौरंग जय निताय गौरंग निताय गौरंग जय निताय गौरंग जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 प्रभुपाद। जय मुष्पाद परम परवराज कष्टोत्तर श्रीमैन ग्रेस ऐसे भक्तिवान स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की, ISKCON founder आचार्य पीपीटी फाउंडर सेवल द होल वर्ल्ड, जगद्गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की, ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की, वंदे देवी तुलसी महारानी की, टैगोर प्रेमानंद। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवतीरुत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। Reading from Srimad-Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 5, entitled as Narada's Instructions on Srimad-Bhagavatam, text number 21. Tvam Atmana Atmanam Avehi Amoghadrug. Tvam Atmanatmanam Avehi Amoghadrug. Tvam Atmanatmanam Avehi Amoghadrug. Parasya Pumsaha Paramatmanaha Kalam. Parasya Pumsaha Paramatmanaha Kalam. Parasya Pumsaha Paramatmanaha Kalam. Ajam Prajatam Jagataha Shivaya Tan. Ajam Prajatam Jagatah Shivaya Tam. Ajam Prajatam Jagatah Shivaya Tan. Mahanubhava Abhyudaya Adhiganyatam. Mahanubhava Abhyudayo Adhiganyatam. Mahanubhava Abhyudayo Adhiganyatam. Tvamatmanatmanam Avehi Amoghadra. Parasya Pumsha Paramatmanaha Kalam. Ajam Prajatam Jagatak Shivayatan. Mahanubhavo Bhidayo Dighanyatam. Tvamatmanatmanam Avehi Amoghadra. Parasya Pumsha Paramatmanaha Kalam. Ajam Prajatam Jagatak Shivayatan. Mahanubhavo Bhidayo Dighanyatam. What one meaning? Tvam, yourself. Atmana, by your own self. Atmanam, the super soul. Avehi, search out. Amogadra, one who has perfect vision. Parasya, of the transcendence. Pumsaha, the personality of Godhead. Paramatmanaha, of the Supreme Lord. Kalam, plenary part. Ajam, birthless. Prajatam, have taken birth. Jagataha, of the world. Shivaya, for the well-being. Tat, that. Mahanubhava, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. Abhyudayaha, pastimes. Adhiganyatam, describe most vividly. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Your goodness has perfect vision. You yourself can know the Supreme Personality Godhead because you are present as the plenary portion of the Lord. Although you are birthless, you have appeared on this earth for the well-being of all people. Please, therefore, describe the transcendental pastimes of the Supreme Personality Godhead, Sri Krishna, more vividly. Translation with repetition. Your goodness has perfect vision. You yourself can know the Super Soul, Personality of Godhead, because you are present as the plenary portion of the Lord. Although you are birthless, you have appeared on this earth for the well-being of all people. Please, therefore, describe the transcendental pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, more vividly. Purport. Srila Vyasadeva is the empowered plenary portion, incarnation of the Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. He descended by his causeless mercy to deliver the fallen souls in the material world. The fallen and forgotten souls are detached from the transcendental loving service of the Lord. The living entities are part and parcel of the Lord, and they are eternally servitors of the Lord. All the Vedic literatures, therefore, are put into systematic order for the benefit of the fallen souls, and it is the duty of the fallen souls to take advantage of such literatures and be freed from the bondage of material existence. Although formerly Sri Narada Rishi is his spiritual master, Srila Vyasadeva is not at all dependent on his spiritual master, because in essence he is the spiritual master of everyone else. But because he is doing the work of an Acharya, he has taught us by his own conduct that one must have a spiritual master, even though he be God himself. Lord Krishna, Lord Sri Rama, and Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all incarnations of Godhead, accepted formal spiritual masters. Although by their transcendental nature they were cognizant of all knowledge. In order to direct people in general to the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna, he himself, in the incarnation of Vyasadeva, is delineating the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. The sense of Bhaktivedanta purport. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namavam Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatadeshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we are reading from Srimad-Bhagavatam, the first canto, 5th chapter, Narada's instructions on Srimad-Bhagavatam. And so here Narada is speaking to Srila Vyasadeva. And why he started speaking? Because even though Vyasadeva had compiled so many Vedic literatures, still he did not find satisfaction of compiling and propagating so many Vedic literatures in the human society. So as Narada is pointing out here that, so Vyasadeva has come for the well-being of every living entity here in the material world. So Narada is saying here, you are the plenary portion of the Supreme Lord and you have appeared on this earth for the well-being of all people. Just like the Supreme Lord also appears. Sri Krishna says in Bhagavad-gita, Eda eda hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharataha abhidhyanam adharmasya tadatmanam srujameham. So just like Lord appears for the elevating the sufferings of the human beings and to establish dharma. Similarly, here Narada is telling that you are also a portion of the Supreme Lord and you have appeared to elevate the sufferings of the human being, or to those who are suffering in this material world and forgotten souls who are detached from transcendental loving service of the Lord. To reclaim them, he has come. So just like Lord comes and re-establishes dharma when a man forgets his duty. So similarly, every incarnation appears for the same purpose. So this conversation started that when Vyasadeva has compiled so many Vedic literatures for the benefit of the human beings. But still, Vyasadeva himself found something vacant in his heart, or something did not satisfy himself. So when he started meditating, Narada Muni appears and he started giving his instructions. So that is the background of this chapter. So why did then Vyasadeva receives Narada Muni and requests him, find out the root cause of my dissatisfaction. So then Narada Muni starts explaining the so many verses Narada explains in this chapter. So Narada in the previous verses says, Narada said, you have not actually broadcast the sublime and spotlight glories of the Supreme Lord. That philosophy which does not satisfy the transcendental senses of the Lord is considered worthless. Although great sage, you have very broadly described the 4 principles beginning with religious performances. You have not described the glories of the Supreme Lord, Personality of Godhead. And further, Narada says, those words which do not describe the glories of the Lord, who alone can sanctify the atmosphere of the whole universe, are considered by saintly persons to be like unto a place of pilgrimage for crows. Since all the perfect persons are inhabitants of transcendental abode, they do not derive any pleasure there. So like this, Vyasadeva, Narada Muni is finding fault in Vyasadeva's compilation. Shri Krishna Rukmini Satyavama. So even though you have compiled so many literatures, but which is not enabling a person to come out of his fallen condition. He is rotting in this material world. So in this way, Narada points out that you have missed out the glorification of the Supreme Lord very vividly in the previous compilation. So now you should start describing the Supreme Lord's glories very vividly. So that's how this Bhagavatam is compiled. And so what is Bhagavatam? In the Bhagavatam, the 10th canto is the activities of the Supreme Lord, which is the biggest among all the chapters of Srimad-Bhagavatam. So in the 10th canto, Vyasadeva compiled all the pastimes of the Lord, beginning from Vrindavan, Mathura, and Dwaraka Leelas. So all these are very, very vividly described. This compilation has happened because of Narada's inspiration to write Krishna's pastimes directly and very vividly. So what happens when the pastimes are heard or read by the people? So this that will actually elevate the human beings to the spiritual world. It makes us re-establish our forgotten relationship with the Supreme Lord and come to the constitutional position of rendering loving devotional service to the Supreme Lord. So that was not happening when people are following the previous compilations of Narada Muni. So that's why compilations of Vyasadeva. So that's why Narada stressed the point that you directly describe the Supreme Lord's glories, which is all auspicious, and you wanted to do all auspicious for the human beings. So now you start describing the Supreme Lord's pastimes. So all the cantos of Srimad-Bhagavatam are explained in the manner of Supreme Lord's pastimes. Every aspect of Vedic conclusions are described in the form of stories, in the form of histories connected with Krishna and his devotees. So that's how this Srimad-Bhagavatam has been compiled under the direction of Narada. Instructions on Srimad-Bhagavatam, Vyasadeva has compiled. So Prabhupada explains in the purport. So Vyasadeva actually descended by his causeless mercy to deliver the fallen souls in this material world. Fallen and forgotten souls are detached from the transcendental loving service of the Lord. The living entities are part and parcel of the Lord, and they are eternally servitors of the Lord. All the Vedic literature, therefore, are put into systematic order for the benefit of the fallen souls. And it is the duty of the fallen souls to take advantage of such literature and be freed from the bondage of material existence. So, every living entity in this material world has forgotten his constitutional position and independently living, and independently is trying to lead a life, and actually it is resulting in frustration and suffering. So that's what the sages are seeing, and Narada Muni is also telling all the fallen souls are suffering in this material world who are detached from the transcendental loving service of the Lord. So same thing Krishna explains in Bhagavad-gita, that we are not this body, we are not the part of this material world, we are spirit soul and we belong to spiritual world. So our actual life lies in the spiritual world. So we have to go back to our original place and live eternal and full of bliss and with full of knowledge. So that is what we are missing here, and forgetting this knowledge we are all suffering. So in this same lines, there is a Chaitanya Mahaprabhu narrates one story when Sanatana Goswami approaches and he asks why I am suffering and what is the goal of my life and where should I get this treasure of my life. So because Sanatana Goswami is already educated in all the Vedic literatures, and he is a well settled Pandit in the society and very educated, and he is having a great job. He left everything and he approached Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So in this line, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu narrates a story of Sarvajna and a poor Brahmana. So what happens, the poor Brahmana is suffering in this material world. So he heard of an astrologer whose name is Sarvajna. So he approaches Sarvajna, and so normally when people are going in the bad times, what we do? We try to approach superiors, or we take guidance from some relatives or some parents or some guides. Similarly, those times they used to approach astrologer, find out why I am suffering here in this world, what is the cause, is there any prayachitta parihara I can do and relieve my pains. So like that they used to approach. Even today's days also some people are approaching astrologers. So they want to see, and what they want to perform some parihara, and they want to see what is next. So like that this poor Brahmana who is suffering, he approached Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sarvajna, so the astrologer. So the Sarvajna asked him to show his hand. So then he read his hand and everything he saw, and he calculated some whatever chart, preparation, everything. Then he said, you are supposed to be not suffering like this. Actually, your father, who is living few years back, he left a great treasury, but before handing over to you, he passed away. See, he was living somewhere else, and his father was living somewhere else. So, the information of the treasure was not passed down to the son. So that's why he is suffering. So then further, so just knowing that information treasure is there, so that is not sufficient. So he has to find out where it is. So Sarvajna, being compassionate, he further explains. So that treasure is in your own courtyard. So, but I will give the directions. If you go, if you follow, then you get that treasure. So first he says, don't go towards southern direction. So if you go towards southern direction and trying to touch the treasure, there are great wasps and drones are there, which will bite you, and they will not allow you to take anything from the southern side. Then if you go to the western side, what happens? There are Yaksha, Rakshas are there. So there are rulers of wealth. So if you want to take wealth, they will not allow you. So they will create disturbance. So you cannot even touch there. So if you go to northern side, there is a black snake which is waiting. And if you go near that, you will be bitten by that snake and you lose your life. So like this, Sarvajna is guiding this Brahmana. Is making sure that you don't go these wrong places or which will give anyway trouble. So you just search or you go to the eastern direction and just dig 2 to 4 inches, and immediately you will touch the treasure. So then you get your all problems are solved, all your suffering is dissolved. So this story basically explains, just like Narada Muni pointed out the Vasudeva's fallacy in the previous compilations. So similarly, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains, for the elevation of all the problems of life, we should approach Vedas. But Vedas are a huge storehouse of knowledge, and there are portions of Karma Kanda, Jnana Kanda, and Upasana Kanda. So Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati explains this story in some more detailed way, that if you go to southern direction, that represents approaching Karma Kanda portion of the Vedas. So what happens if you approach the man who applies Karma Kanda portion for his living or his elevation? So naturally his tendency to enjoy this material world will not go. So even though you may be following the Vedic process of Karma Kanda, but which is detached from the Supreme Personality Godhead, which is not connected with the Supreme Lord, which is making him follow some rules and regulations and finally enjoy in a dharmic way the material benefits. But somehow or other there are so many mistakes and so many things will be there. So eventually there are sufferings and there is enjoyment. So in this way, up and down, Abrahma Bhuna Loka. So like this, he goes up and comes down and performs Karma Kanda portions and try to settle here. But that is not the goal of life, because he is constantly rotating in the cycle of birth and death in a dharmic way. So somebody is not dharmic, not following this even Karma Kanda portion, they are actually going only down, going to the Patala and suffering more and more. So this is the direction Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sarvajna told not to go to southern direction. Then coming to the western direction. So there this Yaksha or this side represents following the Jnana Kanda portion of the Vedas. So if you follow Jnana Kanda, what happens? You simply speculate. So you are frustrated with the material enjoyment, so you want to give up and you want to speculate what is absolute truth. I am not this body, I am Brahman, and so many things, impersonal Brahma Jyoti is all in all. Like that, so many theories, formulations you concoct and you try to settle that way. So that is also creates disturbance. Even though we may approach Brahman, the impersonal Brahma Jyoti, you are not satisfied. You again come to this material world. So this is not the perfect solution one should follow. So still, if you go to northern direction, what is the problem there? So there you are following the Ashtanga process of the Vedic recommendation. So there you meditate on the super soul in the one's own heart. You give up everything, perform austerities for a long time. But you are allured by the siddhis, which will automatically occurs in the process of Ashtanga yoga. And you may sometimes merge in the Brahma Jyoti. So that is also will not give the ultimate goal of life. So just like Narada was explaining about this all Vedic literature which compiled by Vasudeva, that you are actually not encouraging the people to give up the sense of material enjoyment. You are not making them to detach from the material entanglement, but you are making more and more involved in these material affairs. So that is not the right way of giving this knowledge. So similarly, the Sarvajna said, the eastern direction if you go, there the direct process of going back to Godhead is explained as Bhakti Yoga. So among all the Vedic knowledges, Bhakti Yoga is the supreme and which is direct, and just by following the simple processes of Bhakti Yoga, devotion service, we can attain our ultimate goal of life. So similarly here, so that's what Sarvajna revealed. The treasure is actually lying in the eastern side. So you approach there and embrace that treasure, then all your problems are solved. So similarly here Narada Muni explaining that. So you have compiled so many Vedic literatures, but which are all, most of them are covered with Jnana Kanda and Karma Kanda, and which are not actually helping the living entity to come out of the bondage of this material world. So now Narada Muni is advising, now you directly glorify the Supreme Lord's pastimes very vividly and compile a literature. So that will be known as Srimad-Bhagavatam. So all the cantos of Srimad-Bhagavatam are connected with the Supreme Lord and activities of the Supreme Lord. So what happens? Then the fallen soul actually becomes liberated, because his constitutional position of every living entity is that he is part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. So when he is directly in touch with the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, automatically all his misconceptions and misgivings are taken away and he is rightly situated in his constitutional position. So knowing this, this is the treasure, we should take up this Srimad-Bhagavatam, studying Srimad-Bhagavatam and hearing Srimad-Bhagavatam very seriously, and hear the Supreme Lord's glories, which are very vividly described in this Srimad-Bhagavatam scripture by Vasudeva, and we can actually, for that reason only, this the topmost literature of Srimad-Bhagavatam is compiled, and by hearing and taking advantage of such literatures. So there are so many literature, but if you take advantage of that literature which glorifies the Supreme Lord in every page and every word, and then our bondage of material existence is extinguished. So here further Narada Muni explains that you are the Amsha of the Supreme Lord. So you know everything, and now you've described the Supreme Lord glories and compile a literature which will actually really benefit the living entities. So here Prabhupada explained that even though Vasudeva is the Supreme Lord or incarnation of the Supreme Lord, still he is following the instructions of Narada as a spiritual master. Prabhupada explains actually Vasudeva is the Supreme Lord, and for him there is no need of spiritual master. But Vasudeva is playing the role of an Acharya. So to set an example that Acharya should have a spiritual master prior to him, under his direction, he should delineate the pastimes of the Supreme Lord. So just like the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna and Lord Rama and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also accepted a spiritual master. So this will enable us to follow in their footsteps, that we should also accept spiritual master and take his guidance and follow his instructions. Just like Narada is giving instructions here, similarly we can accept spiritual master and take his instruction and apply in life. Then our bondage with the material world is extinguished. So we have to take this human form of life very seriously and take the boon given by the previous acharyas, like Vyasadeva has compiled the Srimad-Bhagavatam for the benefit of everyone. And if you take these instructions, and which are very nicely explained and very authoritatively explained by bona fide acharya, our most beloved spiritual master Srila Prabhupada. So if you read the the translation of this Srimad-Bhagavatam by pure devotees by Srila Prabhupada, then our life becomes successful. So we can take advantage of human form of life by accepting a guru and taking this Srimad-Bhagavatam instruction, Lord Krishna's instructions. We can actually come out of the ocean of material existence. So that's in the Bhagavatam also it is said that about the human form of life. So the verse explains, Hrideha madhyam sulabam sudurlabam plavam sukalpam gurukarnadharam mayanukayalena nabeswaretam puman bhavadim natares sa atmaha. So here in this verse it explained that now that you have got the human form of body very easily, don't think it is very rare. But if you accept Guru Karna, take the guidance of Srila Prabhupada and also Maya, Krishna's instructions. So here Vyasadeva is nothing, he himself is Krishna. So if you take Krishna's instructions in the form of Bhagavad-gita or Srimad-Bhagavatam, and we can easily cross over the ocean of material existence and attain our original position as the eternal loving servant of the Supreme Lord and render devotional service eternally. So that advantage we can take up and perfect our life. So we'll end with this. Srimad-Bhagavatam ki, Jai Srila Prabhupada ki.